If you don't control your emotions, something else will. And whatever controls your emotions will eventually control your life. Most people don't fail because they are not intelligent. They fail because they react. They speak when they should stay quiet. They explode when they should stay calm. They explain when they should walk away. Power is quiet. Emotion is loud. The world does not reward emotional people. It tolerates them, then replaces them. If you feel everything, you lose everything. If you react to everything, you become predictable. And predictable men are easy to manipulate. Silence is not weakness, it is restraint. And restraint is power. Most men lose respect the moment they lose control of their emotions. Not because emotions are wrong, but because uncontrolled emotion exposes insecurity. Anger shows where you are weak. Defensiveness shows where you are unsure. Over-explaining shows where you want approval. Calm shows confidence. Stillness shows authority. Control shows strength. A man who controls his emotions can sit in chaos without becoming it. A man who cannot will always be ruled by circumstances. Watch closely. The loudest man in the room is never the most powerful. The angriest man is never the strongest. The most emotional man is never the leader. Leaders respond. Followers react. If you want to know why people stop respecting someone, look at how they behave under pressure. Pressure does not change a man, it reveals him. When stress hits, emotional men collapse. They speak too much. They justify themselves. They blame others. They seek sympathy. Controlled men do something different. They become quieter, more observant, more deliberate. They don't rush to explain. They don't rush to respond. They let others expose themselves. Emotional discipline is not suppression. It is direction. You don't kill emotion. You command it. Anger can be fuel if you don't let it drive. Fear can be information if you don't let it rule. Sadness can be depth if you don't drown in it. The problem is not emotion. The problem is letting emotion decide. Most men hand decision-making power to their moods, and moods change hourly. Strong men decide first, then let emotions catch up. This is why emotional men sabotage relationships. They argue instead of observing. They chase instead of attracting. They explain instead of setting boundaries. The moment you react emotionally in a relationship, you give away leverage. You show that the other person can control your state. Calm men don't argue for respect. They move differently. They speak less. They act more. Respect follows stability. If someone can provoke you, they own you. If someone can disturb your peace, they control you. That is why discipline begins internally. Look at money. Look at business. Look at success. Markets punish emotional decisions. Investors lose money when fear or excitement takes over. Entrepreneurs fail when ego speaks louder than logic. The calm builder wins. The emotional reactor burns out. Announcing plans feels good emotionally. Executing silently builds results. Emotion wants expression. Discipline wants outcomes. That's the difference. Most people choose short-term emotional relief over long-term respect. They vent, they post, they complain, they overshare. And then they wonder why nobody takes them seriously. Serious men move quietly. They don't need to convince. They don't need to explain. They don't need to instain. They don't need to announce. Their presence speaks. The ability to stay calm while others panic is rare. That rarity creates value. When everyone is emotional, the calm man becomes the reference point, the anchor, the authority. This is why silence is dangerous. In the best way, silence forces others to project. Silence creates mystery. Silence removes ammunition. An emotional man gives people words to use against him. A calm man gives them nothing. Control your emotions or you will spend your life apologizing for them. Most regret comes from emotional reactions that couldn't be undone. Messages sent too fast. Words spoken in anger. Decisions made in impulse. Discipline saves you from future regret. The strongest response is often no response. When insulted, pause. When challenged, pause. When tempted, pause. That pause is power. Within that pause, you decide who you are. This is how you become untouchable. Not by dominance, not by aggression, but by self-mastery. A man who cannot control himself will never control his life. A man who controls himself needs no external control. That is freedom. Freedom is emotional independence, not needing reactions, not needing validation, not needing approval. When you no longer need to react, you cannot be manipulated. That is why emotional discipline scares people, because it removes their leverage. Stay calm long enough, and people reveal themselves. Stay silent long enough, and truth surfaces. You don't need to win arguments. You need to win your internal battles. Control your emotions, or lose everything. Lose respect, lose trust, lose opportunities, lose peace. This world does not reward emotional chaos. It rewards controlled execution. Stay cold, stay focused, stay disciplined. Let others talk, let others react, let others explain. You build quietly. And when the results arrive, no explanation will be required. Most people think emotional control means becoming numb. It doesn't. It means becoming precise. A controlled man still feels anger. He still feels disappointment. He still feels desire. But he does not let those emotions speak first. He lets them inform him, not command him. This is where most men fail. They believe every feeling deserves expression. It doesn't. Not every thought is true. Not every emotion is urgent. Not every reaction is necessary. Discipline begins the moment you stop obeying impulses. An impulse says, respond now. A disciplined mind says, wait. Waiting changes everything. When you wait, clarity replaces chaos. When you wait, emotion loses intensity. When you wait, you regain leverage. Emotional people rush. Calm people choose. And choice is power. This is why silence feels uncomfortable at first. Silence removes the emotional outlet. Silence forces you to sit with discomfort. Most men avoid that discomfort. They talk to escape it. They react to release it. They explode to feel relief. But relief is temporary. The experience lasts longer. A disciplined man accepts discomfort without leaking it onto others. He understands something simple. Not every emotion is meant to be shared. Some emotions are meant to be mastered. Look at how men lose their reputation. One emotional outburst, one uncontrolled message, one public reaction. Years of discipline erased in seconds. That's how fragile reputation is. And that's why control matters. Power is fragile too. It is not taken, it is given away. Every time you lose emotional control, you hand power to someone else. You tell them exactly where to press, exactly how to provoke you, exactly how to move you. A man who can be provoked can be controlled. This is why emotionally disciplined men appear distant. It's not arrogance, it's containment. They don't give everyone access to their inner world. Access must be earned. When you explain your emotions to everyone, you cheapen them. When you react in public, you lose mystery. When you vent constantly, you lose respect. Respect is built on consistency. Emotion is inconsistent. Controlled men are predictable in behavior, not in reaction. People trust them because they don't swing wildly. They don't collapse under pressure. They don't become unstable when challenged. Stability is rare. That rarity creates authority. This is why emotional discipline changes how people treat you. They speak more carefully around you. They think twice before testing you. They respect your boundaries without you in silence. They emotionally when silent. But because you were silent, emotional men beg to be understood. Disciplined men don't need to be. Understanding follows strength, not explanation. This is especially true in conflict. When someone is emotional, they want a reaction. They want engagement. They want chaos. If you give it to them, you lose. The calm man wins by not entering the emotional arena. He listens, he observes, he responds only when necessary. Sometimes the most powerful response is withdrawal. Walking away is not weakness when it's intentional. Silence is not surrender when it's controlled. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every insult deserves your words. Not every provocation deserves your attention. Your attention is currency. Spend it carefully. Men who lack emotional control are always tired, always drained, always reacting. Disciplined men conserve energy. They don't waste emotion on things they cannot control. They focus on execution. This is why emotionally disciplined men progress faster. They don't stall in drama. They don't spiral in resentment. They don't matter. They don't matter. Stuck replaying conversations, they move forward. Emotion pulls you into the past. Discipline keeps you in the present. Vision pulls you into the future. Most men live emotionally in the past, replaying disrespect, rejection, failure. Controlled men extract the lesson and move on. They don't need closure. They don't need apologies. They don't need validation. They need progress. This is the difference between emotional intelligence and emotional discipline. Intelligence understands emotions. Discipline commands them. Understanding without control is useless. You don't need to analyze every feeling. You need to decide who's in charge. If emotion leads, your life becomes unstable. If discipline leads, emotion becomes fuel. Fuel is useful only when contained. Fire warms when controlled. Fire destroys when loose. So does emotion. The man who masters this becomes dangerous in the right way. Not aggressive, not loud, not reactive. Dangerous because he cannot be shaken. Pressure sharpens him. Stress focuses him. Conflict reveals his composure. That composure intimidates without effort. People feel it. They don't know why you feel different. They just know you do. Because emotional discipline creates gravity. Others orbit around what is stable. If you want to rise in life, become emotionally unavailable to chaos, not cold to people, cold to nonsense. Protect your inner state like you protect your time. Because once your emotions are under control, everything else becomes easier. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become calmer. Work becomes sharper. You stop leaking energy. And when you stop leaking energy, you start accumulating power. That's when life changes. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly. Most emotional mistakes happen in relationships. Not because people don't care, but because they care without control. Attraction doesn't disappear because of silence. It disappears because of emotional instability. People are not drawn to intensity, they are drawn to steadiness. When a man reacts emotionally in a relationship, he communicates one thing without saying it. I need you to regulate me. Need kills attraction. A man who needs reassurance, constant explanation, or emotional engagement becomes predictable. Predictability removes tension. And without tension, attraction fades. Calm creates safety. Safety creates trust. Trust creates depth. But calm is often misunderstood as distance. In reality, it's discipline. Emotionally disciplined men don't overshare. They don't overtext. They don't explain their fulfilled in the moment it appears. They argue incisions and silence before speaking. They delay changes the entire dynamic. Most men send messages while emotional. They speak while hurt. They react while insecure. And later, they regret it. Words spoken from emotion age badly. Controlled men understand this. They don't chase clarity. They don't chase closure. They don't chase reassurance. They focus on presence. Presence is felt more than words. When someone senses that you are stable, they relax. When they sense that you are reactive, they become cautious. Emotional volatility forces others to manage you. That is exhausting. No one wants to be responsible for another adult's emotional state. This is why arguments escalate. One emotion triggers another. One reaction invites another. And soon, the problem is no longer the issue. It's the behavior. Calm men de-escalate without trying. They listen without interrupting. They respond without defensiveness. They don't argue to win. They observe to understand. And often that alone ends the conflict. Silence during conflict is powerful when it's grounded. Not withdrawal, not punishment. Grounded stillness. It forces the other person to slow down, to hear themselves, to regulate their own emotions. Most people calm down when they realize you won't mirror the chaos. This is true attraction, not excitement, not drama. Stability. Emotionally disciplined men are not cold. They are selective. They choose when to engage emotionally. They don't match emotionally when silent or partitionally. Access is earned through consistency, not demand. This is especially important when respect is tested. Disrespect thrives on reaction. When someone disrespects you and you explode, you teach them that they can control you. When you stay calm and adjust your behavior instead, you teach them boundaries without speaking. Boundaries enforced quietly last longer. Explained boundaries invite negotiation. Live boundaries end discussion. In relationships, over-explaining feelings often creates confusion instead of clarity. Not every emotion needs a conversation. Some emotions need time. Time clarifies what emotion exaggerates. Controlled men understand this. They don't rush intimacy. They don't rush emotional disclosure. They don't rush emotional disclosure. They don't rush commitment under pressure. They move at a pace they can maintain. That consistency builds trust. People trust what doesn't fluctuate. This is why emotional control makes a man attractive without effort. He becomes a safe place instead of a storm. Not because he suppresses emotion, but because he governs it. A man who governs himself does not need to control others. That autonomy is felt, and people respect what they cannot destabilize. If you want lasting attraction, stop trying to prove how you feel. Show stability instead. Feel deeply, but speak deliberately. That is emotional maturity. And emotional maturity always outlasts emotional intensity. Money does not respond to emotion. It responds to discipline. Markets don't care how you feel. Deadlines don't pause for your mood. Opportunity doesn't wait for emotional readiness. This is where most men fall behind. They make financial decisions emotionally. They spend to feel better. They quit when frustrated. They rush when excited. They panic when uncertain. Emotion creates noise. Noise leads to mistakes. The men who rise financially are not the loudest. They are the emotionally when silent. They don't matter. Plans early. They don't argue about potential. They don't chase validation for effort. They execute quietly. Silence protects focus. When you speak about goals too early, emotion replaces discipline. You feel rewarded before results exist. Momentum dies. Controlled men keep plans private until execution makes them real. This is why public motivation rarely produces private results. At work, emotional men explain too much. They defend themselves instead of improving. They react to criticism instead of extracting value from it. Reaction turns feedback into conflict. Control turns feedback into leverage. A calm man listens without personalizing. He separates information from ego. That ability alone creates advantage. Under pressure, emotional men rush decisions. They chase certainty instead of accuracy. They seek comfort instead of progress. Controlled men tolerate uncertainty. They wait for better information. They delay gratification. They don't confuse urgency with importance. This patience compounds. Status is built the same way. Real status is not declared, it is recognized. Men who chase status loudly expose insecurity. Men who build quietly attract it. Status follows consistency. People respect the man who delivers without emotional volatility. The one who doesn't panic when challenged. The one who doesn't celebrate too early or collapse too fast. Reliability creates trust. Trust creates opportunity. This is why emotionally disciplined men are given responsibility. Not because they are more talented, but because they are predictable under pressure. Pressure reveals emotional structure. Some men crack. Some men stabilize. Those who stabilize rise. This is also why emotional discipline protects wealth. Impulse spending, emotional investing, revenge decisions. These destroy long-term security. Controlled men pause before action. They don't need immediate relief. They think in decades, not moments. This long-term orientation separates builders from spenders. Most people are emotional consumers. Few are disciplined creators. Creators endure boredom. Consumers chase stimulation. The man who can work without emotional reward becomes dangerous in a system addicted to comfort. While others need excitement to move, he moves by commitment. That's rare. And rarity creates leverage. In leadership, emotional discipline is non-negotiable. People look to leaders for stability, not expression. A leader who reacts emotionally creates fear. A leader who stays calm creates confidence. Confidence spreads. Panic spreads faster. Controlled leaders control environments without force. They don't dominate, they anchor. This is why the highest positions reward restraint. They argue with silence, with a prettiful, we don't matter. Cause they could matter. They defend and sad. They defend react emotionally when silence before opportunity arrives. They vent publicly. They react to mind. They express frustration where discipline is required. And then they wonder why doors close. Doors open for men who can be trusted with pressure. Pressure is privilege. If you cannot control your emotions, you cannot be trusted with responsibility. This is the unspoken rule of money and status. Emotional discipline is not optional at higher levels. It is the price of entry. The man who understands this stops seeking emotional comfort at work. He seeks competence. He doesn't need praise. He doesn't need reassurance. He needs progress. And progress comes to those who can stay composed when it matters most. That composure builds reputation. Reputation opens doors. Doors change lives. Quietly, there comes a point where emotional control is no longer a skill. It becomes an identity. At that level, you are not trying to stay calm. Calm is your default. You no longer ask, how should I react? You ask, is the reaction even necessary? Most situations dissolve when you don't feed them. The man who becomes untouchable understands one thing clearly. Not everything deserves access to his inner world. This is not isolation, it is sovereignty. He governs his internal state like territory. Nothing enters without permission. Nothing stays without purpose. This is why chaos struggles around him, but never inside him. Time does something powerful to emotionally disciplined men. It sharpens them. While others accumulate emotional scars, resentment, and noise, he accumulates clarity. He no longer carries old arguments, old grudges, old explanations. He releases quickly and moves forward clean. This lightness gives him speed. Emotionally reactive men move heavy. They drag the past into every decision. Controlled men move free. Legacy is built this way, not through dramatic moments, but through years of emotional consistency. People remember how you made them feel when things were difficult. Did you panic? Did you explode? Did you collapse? Or did you remain steady? Steadiness becomes your signature. Long after words are forgotten, emotional behavior is remembered. This is why the untouchable man speaks less as he grows. He has nothing to prove. Proof comes from results, not explanation. He doesn't correct misunderstandings emotionally. He allows time to clarify his position. Time is the ally of the disciplined. Emotion wants resolution now. Discipline trusts the long game. This trust changes how you experience life. You stop needing instant justice, instant recognition, instant validation. You know that truth surfaces with time, and time always sides with consistency. The untouchable man is not admired by everyone. He doesn't try to be. He is respected by those who matter. His boundaries are not loud, they are firm. His presence is not overwhelming. It is grounding. People feel safer around someone who is emotionally stable, because stability cannot be faked. Eventually, Emotional discipline becomes solitude. Not loneliness, solitude. You enjoy silence. You enjoy stillness. You enjoy your own company. This independence makes you immune to manipulation. You no longer fear abandonment. You no longer fear disapproval. You no longer fear misunderstanding. Fear loses its grip when emotions are under control. At this level, setbacks no longer break you. They inform you. Loss no longer defines you. It refines you. You stop identifying with emotion and start using it as data. That shift changes everything. Life stops feeling chaotic. Decisions stop feeling heavy. Your nervous system stabilizes. This is the real reward, not money, not status, not attention. Peace. Peace is expensive, and only disciplined men can afford it. This is why emotional discipline is the foundation of everything. Without it, success collapses under pressure. With it, even failure becomes manageable. The untouchable man does not seek control over others. He doesn't need to. He controls himself, and self-control is the highest form of power. Control your emotions, or lose everything. Control them, and you gain something rare: freedom.